people mentioned in the back had abandoned true Christianity and embraced a pseudo-Christianity or false Christianity.
Yeah, that really is amazing. So the Word isn't sufficient in itself. We have to go look at the other religions. But yet I wonder if these other religions are looking to the Bible to enhance their spirituality.
Well, it's not so much looking to other religions. It's, remember what Morton Kelsey said, that you can find the depth. Let me read it again. You can find most of the New Age practices in the depth of Christianity. And so they're not called New Age. They're called Christian, spiritual disciplines. These are spiritual disciplines, contemplative prayer. And when you do them, it's not so much you go looking for truth in other religions, but you kind of resonate with them. In other words, you understand what they understand. And so therefore they become like your mystical brothers and sisters. You don't bail out of Christianity and become a Buddhist or a Hindu. You stay, it's called interspirituality. You stay a so-called Christian, but you resonate with, Paramahansa Yogananda, Buddhist monks, Zen Buddhist masters, Sufi sheikhs. And this is why, we feel that this has some kind of a prophetic angle to it. That,
absolutely.
That there's this one world. People that are dispensationalists for years have talked about a one world religion. And nobody really knew what it would take. Everybody thought it would be like an outer form of worship where you just kind of do outer things. But they didn't understand, I think, as we do, that this is a mystical type of perception. This is a mystical type of approach.
Right, and so people are becoming more mystics.
Yes.
In their practice.
Exactly.
And so you become this one world religion that is now rising is diverse, yet it is one.
Yes, Karl Rahner, the famous Catholic mystic, said that in the future a Christian will be a mystic, or he or she will not be a Christian at all.
Right.
The Christian of the future will be a mystic.
So you have these experiences that really bind everybody together, not doctrine, not the truth of God's Word, but a mystical experience that is going across the board that appears to be the same for everybody in all these different religious practices.
Yeah, exactly.
That's pretty amazing.
And, anybody can check this out for themselves. It's not like we have special access to anything. Anybody can go on the internet and find out what we found out. And I know many people that were... I don't know if they were skeptical, but they were, inquisitive at first and thought, well, is this really true? And they started to check it out. They started to go on the internet, and they found out there actually is a link from Christian mysticism to Eastern mysticism. Just like I didn't mention other names. There's Thomas Keating, there's Basil Pennington.
Right. These are all people's books that people in the Emerging Church are constantly reading and absorbing as those that are seekers of truth, when actually they're leading them away from the Word of God.
It's really rather simple. The Emerging Church draws this, as I've just shown, the purpose-driven church draws on the Catholic mystical tradition. Right. Desert Fathers, that's the tradition this came out of. Tilden Edwards, who is one of the most highly respected contemplative leaders in the country, says, this mystical stream from the Desert Fathers is the western bridge to Far Eastern spirituality.
Let's talk about these Desert Fathers. These were people that lived in monasteries that were away from the world and separated themselves in such a way, and they ended up practicing things that were not in the Bible, and that became their spiritual life.
Well, I found out they experimented with different methods. If you were out there, out in the desert, sooner or later you get tired of just regular prayer. So you start said they experimented with many and developed many different methods. They developed them. I believe they all sprang from one central source. So they could have gotten this from I've read there were Buddhist and Hindu influences in the Middle East at the time, because Alexandria was a focal point for that sort of thing. And a good example, Saint Bernard of Clairvaux. His mystical perceptions were the same as, what the modern New Age teaches. He says that God is the rock in the rock and the tree in the trees. In other words, the essence of everything that is God. And hence God is the man in the man.
The all in all of panentheism.
Well, if God is the rock in the rock, then we should worship the rock. If God is in the rock and God is in the trees, then we should worship the rocks and the trees, you know. And if God, and that's what Thomas Merton said, he said, if we all knew who we really were, we'd fall down and worship each other, because at the core of every person is the pure glory of God that is untouched by sin. So, and that is the equivalent of what the New Age calls the higher self.
Right, so Christ is already in you. You just need to discover him through some kind of method and release him out to, and it's your real self. You know, and yet the emergent church is going back to these desert fathers, that we call them, and they think that they're contacting earlier Christianity. But this isn't earlier Christianity at all.
No, see, that's it. They don't go back far. They think that since this developed within the context of Christianity, it's Christianity. But and then they use verses from the Old Testament like "Be still and know that I am God," and others that talk about being still. See there, you know, it's talking about meditation. Be still and know that I am God. Right,
but it's a completely different meaning. And a good example of this would be like when Moses was leading the Israelites away from the Egyptians. They were right behind them, trying to catch up with them and slay them all. And they ended up at the Red Sea. And Moses said, "Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord." In other words, be still and let God work on your behalf. That's really what it means.
Yes. See, that's what books like this are all about. You know, the spiritual disciplines, practices that transform us. You know, this is, it's contemplative prayer is on the back here.
Well, and this is something like Maharishi Mahesh Yogi used to teach, that you would say that about yourself. Be still and know that you are God.
Yes.
And they would chant, I am.
William Shannon, who was a major proponent of contemplative prayer and one of Thomas Merton's biographers, said that we all have to discover, or the reason we're here, what salvation means, is discovering your own true name. And then he says our own true name is the I am. And that is the true name of every person on earth.
See, well, according to the Bible, to say something like that would be blasphemy.
Yeah.
Because there is only one I am, and we're not it.
Wayne Teasdale, in his book, The Mystic Heart, talks about being actually possessed by this entity that he feels breathing within him, and that these experiences were very powerful. And I've said this a number of times, that you're not going to believe you're God unless you feel like you're God. You know, you're not, let me emphasize that, you're not going to believe you're God unless you have this experience or feeling like you are God. This mystical, supernatural experience.
Well, let me build off of that, because as a New Ager, before I became a Christian, I was practicing a lot of these things that you're mentioning, and we were chanting I am, we were calling upon angels to empower us. And let me tell you, this is very real. The power that comes to you,
yes,
there is a presence. It honors your words and your desires, and it will empower you, and it will deceive you into thinking these things.
You weren't just being silly, right?
No.
There was a presence there. This is not just your imagination, right?
No, it was for real. It was very powerful.
Yes, and there's a continuity to it, and there's a, there's a presence that can be found all over the world. I mean, everybody that has this experience has the same experience. You know, there's
it all leads to the same place. It's all like different tributaries.
The word I was trying to think of, uniformity. There's uniformity to this. And when there's uniformity to something, it means that it's not just the imagination. There's actually a second party there.
Right, and so all these different practices that are diverse in these different religions are all like different tributaries running to the same ocean. They all lead to the same place. You know, the mystical experience, no matter which religion you're involved in, all leads to the same, what they call consciousness, the same state of mind brings you to the same place. And of course it becomes a deception, especially when you're thinking that you are God, or the God presence is already in you as you.
Dear friends, greetings in Jesus. This is your friend Jacob Prash speaking to you at the moment from the UK. You know, so many of the questions we get in our Roku broadcast and our Vimeo clips and on YouTube deal with subjects that we deal with much more extensively in our books. We can't, for the sake of brevity, go into the kind of depth in a TV broadcast we can actually go into in a book. But so many of the questions come from material that are expounded in the books on a much more broader scale that it's almost frustrating sometimes that we can't spend hours and hours answering the questions that are given to us. Obviously, practicality dictates that's not a possibility. The books are there. They're available. They're available in print through the Moriel catalog on the Moriel website, moriel.org. But in this day of Kindle and electronic books, they're also available through Amazon, and they're available through Kindle. The three books that would be the most referred to in the questions we receive are the three latest books. The first being The Dilemma of Laodicea. The Dilemma of Laodicea. It's an exposition of the seven churches in Revelation, culminating with the final two churches, Philadelphia and Laodicea particularly, setting the stage for the return of Jesus. The Dilemma of Laodicea would be the first. The second would be Shadows of the Beast. Shadows of the Beast. How the coming Antichrist, how his identity will be revealed to the faithful church. The rapture will not happen. Will not happen, absolutely not happen, until the faithful church knows who the ultimate beast of Revelation is. That is the Antichrist and also the false prophet. How the identity of the coming Antichrist will be revealed to the faithful church. Shadows of the Beast, the second book. And the final and latest one, Harpazo. Harpazo. What the scripture actually teaches about the rapture, the snatching away which takes place between the 6th and 7th seals in the book of Revelation. So these three books, The Dilemma of Laodicea, Shadows of the Beast, and Harpazo, all available on the Moriel catalog, all available through Amazon, and all easily available electronically by Kindle. Thank you so much, dear friends. God bless. May Jesus be with you.